Hello everyone and welcome back to the next episode of Suzerain, where we've taken power, but things are in a tough state. We've got a pretty bad economic growth, we've got a little bit of money, but not much personal wealth because we grew up poor. But I'm hoping that will give us some good experience in the long run growing up poor. We're trying to make everything that little bit more democratic. Whether we will manage or not is another question. For the meantime, we're going for our meeting on the media strategy. Lucien and Peter arrived at my office to talk about recent developments and the media strategy. They both took their seats across to me. Lucien put on his reading glasses and quickly went over some documents. Peter turned to Lucien and nodded. Greetings, gentlemen. I've just received further information from the interior about the sudden fire that broke out at the Holstad University archives nearby. Tell me more. I feel like that sounds important. The initial reports from the whole Sword police chief indicate a potential arson case. In accordance with protocol, the Swordish Intelligence Directorate has been called. Is the SID really necessary for this? Why would I not hit the archives of a university in the first place? I see no logical motive there. It seems like the chief suspects foreign sabotage. They informed us that a large section of the archive has been destroyed. It included tens of thousands of globally recognised research documents in original by the great thinkers of our people. We need to support our education system to make new discoveries for the future, definitely. Preserving our knowledge is as important as expanding on it. It's interesting that the employee records have been destroyed as well. Luckily, most originals have copies in other universities and some international libraries. The first edition of my favourite book, The Geopolitics of Swordland by Herman Equa, was destroyed as well. Maybe just a freak accident. We do have the copies of most important works, so no single fire can eradicate our knowledge. I see no point in destroying employee records either. More importantly, Lucien mentioned that Marcel Caronti contacted him. The Carontis have always been known as the richest and most influential families in Swordland. Marcel Caronti was no exception. He was the older son of Conranth Caronti, the industrialist and media mogul who founded HOS. HOS being the heart of the Swordland conglomerate, a multi-industry corporation worth tens of billions of SR, the richest man in the entirety of Swordland. Lucien turned to me. He has offered to meet with you, Mr. President. What does he want? After the passing of his father, may he rest in peace, Marcel aims to become the next CEO of the HOS conglomerate. He mentioned a productive collaboration. They are a powerful and influential media conglomerate. To start with, they own the Swordland Today newspaper, the Swordish Broadcasting Corporation, the S, which means it would be wise to have them by our side. Sorry for interrupting. What does this productive collaboration entail? He did not wish to explain the details over the phone, but rather in person. I believe I will be receiving a call from him sometime soon. However, as Peter said, they have substantial power over the content of media outlets, headlines, radio shows. That is what he will be offering. What he wants in return is what we need to understand. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, we need to determine our general approach to the media. I'm no media expert, but Lucien made some very interesting arguments at the preparation meeting yesterday. There are two ways we can approach the media. One of them is by influencing it, which has clear advantages. The other is keeping it independent. We're trying to be democratic, let's not control the press unless we absolutely have to. So I'm going to say the media must be independent. Ideally, yes, but an unpopular leader will not be able to pass even the easiest reforms. It is of utmost importance to maintain public popularity and avoid any damaging scandals or mistakes. I must stress one thing, Mr. President. The more people we have supporting our agenda, the more we can accomplish. With someone on our side in an influential media organisation, we can do this very easily. I do see what you're getting at, but we'll have to see. I agree with Lucien, but why is the assumption there'll be scandals and mistakes? We can always hope for the best, but do we really think that nothing can go wrong, especially considering the recent history of Swordland? Who is it? Someone's at the door. It's Olivia, Mr. President. Olivia Suno, my new secretary, entered the office. This is the one that Peter had a slight pang for, so to speak. Her dark curls bounced as she crossed the room to my desk. She spoke with a slight lilt in her voice. Excuse me, Mr. President. Mr. Gallade's secretary has been calling me and wanted me to relay a message. Ah. Master Caronti, the new CEO for HOS Conglomerate, is on the line for Mr. Gallade. Well, the ball is in our court now. Would you like to talk to him, sir, or would you like me to? I'll talk to him. Let's teach him straight away. Let's allow him to pick up. Let's allow him to call. Doesn't mean we're going to give in to his demands. The President speaking. It's an honour, Mr. President. I know your time is valuable, so I'll not waste any of it. I was just elected CEO of HOS. My strategy in running this conglomerate will be different than my father's approach. That is why I'm offering a partnership deal regarding our media branch. I would like to formally invite you to my resort near Comriat for a meeting to discuss the details. What does this entail? As futurist partners, Mr. President, surely we can't talk about the details on the phone. I just wish to have a face-to-face conversation with you. I'll send through the details with my secretary if you're interested. I see no reason to turn him down and anger him straight away. We may as well at least take the meeting and then see what he's offering. You will not be disappointed, I promise. Well then, I will let you return to your packed schedule. See you later, Mr. President. Goodbye. I hung up the phone. I'll set things up right away. Expect a worthwhile meeting next month. It's settled then. Looking forward to next month. I wonder if he has a pool. Come on, Peter. You're better than this, surely. It appears we're done for today. We will continue where we left off later. Thank you for your time. Good work with Marcel. Keep it up. We are already getting the attention of key figures and potentially dangerous ones. Oh, I'm not sure I like that at all. Okay. Let's read the reports. The GNA prepares Tourism Act. The Grand National Assembly in Whole Sword is readying the Swordland Tourism and Cultural Preservation Act. This act aims to enhance the cultural and tourism appeal of several cities, including Boren, Ribery, Lochhaven, Anrica and Benfey, in a collective push to make the Swordland a global tourist destination. Seems wise. And the fire. A fire broke out of the academic administration building of the Wholesword University. This is what we already know. The initial report from the Chief of Police in Wholesword indicates a near to complete destruction of employee records from 1890 until now, along with original copies of internationally recognised academic research destroyed. The extent of the damage is worse than expected. Not great. And the Party Committee report. The Reform Committee reports that any potential change to the Constitution in the direction of the reformers will likely result in strong opposition from the National Front Party. The members of Assembly in support of such direction seem to be in great numbers and possibly make up a majority in the Grand National Assembly, while most members of the United Swordland Party seem reluctant about supporting any changes. And the public opinion report. People's views on the need for democratic reform in the government structure has changed over the last decade. Reformist propaganda from the leader of the People's Freedom and Justice Party, Franz Richter, have resulted in a massive increase in the demands for democratic reforms. It's estimated that currently 55% of the population supports the reformist ideas, which is why we're going democratic, hopefully. Okay, the campaign finance bill has been passed by the GNA. Electoral Campaign Finance Bill. Interesting. Section 1 of this bill stipulates a significant change in the methodology of public funds allocations to political parties. The new measure replaces the previous system based on the number of votes won in the general election, with the system reliant on the proportion of seats secured by a political party in the Assembly. Section 2 sets the annual financial allocation to political parties of 500,000 Ren per each member of Assembly. This shift ensures that financial support from public funds aligns more closely with the party's representative influence within the legislative body. Section 3. A consequential effect of these amendments will effectively lead to a substantial increase in the election budget for the USP, and a minor augmentation for other parties present in the Assembly. The restructuring of funding fosters a more proportional representation of party presence within the Assembly. Section 4 highlights the important consequences of the reallocation. Parties that do not meet the 10% election threshold will see their public funding effectively curtailed. This measure ensures that public resources are concentrated towards parties with a significant representation in Parliament. I think we all sign. Let's hope that was the right decision. Almost certainly not. Right. News. Okay. The campaign finance bill has been signed into law by President Rain after the approval of the Grand National Assembly by a majority vote on Friday. Franz Richter, who objected to the funding package saying it contained too much of fairness in the allocation of the budget, also sought to delay proceedings by demanding a formal recorded vote, but was overruled. That might be a mistake. Let's hope we were okay there. Right, what's next? Over here in Lockhaven, a new city. Let's read the report here. The Gassam sea rig off the coast of Lockhaven has paused oil extraction operations for essential maintenance. The rig has been a significant contributor to Lockhaven's oil output, and its temporary shutdown could impact the city's production levels. The maintenance timeline remains uncertain, and the local government is monitoring the situation and making arrangements to ensure minimal disruption in the city's oil supply. Until then, normal operations remain suspended. Right to habeas corpus. Suspended. Right, the Ministry of Economy has put forward 2 bold plans for mega infrastructure projects that would help with the economic recession in the long term. Investing in projects of this scale could take up some portion of our budget, could prove worthwhile if accomplished successfully. We have 7 government budget, we can reject the plans or invest in a mega infrastructure project. We're going to do that because that will help with the economic recession, provide jobs, I would presume, etc. So we will do that. So we have lost one of our government budget, but I'm hoping that will help our growth in the long run. Discussion of potential infrastructure projects. The view towards the Marquian Sea from Lockhaven was nothing short of exquisite. The seaside state residence, fittingly named the Bloom Mansion, was large, fine, and accommodating. But enjoying the luxurious mansion was the main reason of our visit. We gathered the economic team here to discuss a new infrastructure investment project. Half an hour had already passed since the start of the meeting. Unfortunately, I did not even have the chance for my usual afternoon coffee. Looking at the view from my windows, I let my mind drift for a couple of seconds. Simmons' voice brought me back into the ongoing discussion. Mr. President, we need to focus on boosting the economy as quickly as possible. One of the fastest ways to achieve this is through infrastructure projects. What can we focus on? On the one hand, businessmen are complaining about the slow logistical rail network between Holswold and Lockhaven. On the other hand, citizens are criticizing the lack of a proper highway connection between Lockhaven and Arvery. The narrow roads by the seaside are not only dangerous, but also difficult to traverse. I feel like we need to pick the most profitable option for economic growth, which I think will be the railroad, which is obviously connecting our 2 most economically powerful cities. It is not our business people who are suffering now, but ordinary folk. What really matters is that your first economic act accomplishes something tangible. I feel like we have to go with Simon here. I appreciate it may not work greatly for the general people, but I want to get businessmen on side in a natural way that will give us money, hopefully help the economy, and we can use that money to then help fund the ordinary folk who are struggling. We must improve the economy of the nation and bring it out of recession. To that point, I defined 2 important projects for your attention, the H3 Highway Project and the L1 High-Speed Railway Project. The Ministry can only support one project at a time with our current capacity and budget. Let's move on to the details of each. So which one do you want to hear about first? Let's start about the rail. Your predecessor, Alfonso, failed to deliver on this campaign promise, but now we have the opportunity to start the construction of a groundbreaking railway project. As you know, our current trains cannot meet the standards of today. As many other countries adopt new electrical engine technology to power up their trains, we are falling behind. News about the new electrical trains in United Continent has piqued our business's interests. They want to transport resources and material from Holswold to Lockhaven with great speed and efficiency. This could empower businesses and bring investments. I agree. This should be our priority: growth and development optimization. Our plan is to upgrade the old L1 line from Holswold to Lockhaven. It will transform into a high-speed railway. The plan construction starts right here at the capital. From there we'll go to America first, and then connect to Gelsword, and after which we'll reach Lockhaven, our economic powerhouse. The L1 will significantly boost the economies of the newly leading cities and even the rural areas in between. Lockhaven is our primary port, so the goods unloaded there will be transported to Holswold much faster. I believe this will benefit Swordish businesses and Swordish as a whole. I think that's the right decision. For the wealthy and middle-class citizens of these regions, but not for the poor dears who wouldn't be able to afford the increased ticket prices. The Mayor of Anrica, Curtin Lester, also requested this project be prioritised. businessmen in the region will be very content, which in turn will increase investments and employment. Therefore, I will recommend the L1 high-speed rail project. Very interesting, but I still want to hear about the other highway project. Let's hear both sides of the coin. We don't need to decide just yet. The H3 project aims to improve the abysmal state of the road network in the Angonland region bordering Angola. This area is home to several million Anglo-Sordish and Agno-Sordish and Sordish citizens who currently feel neglected. There is no proper highway connections to and from Angonland. The mayor of Avery, Eric Neal, has been asking for a bigger budget to develop the regional infrastructure. He told us that even trucks are having a hard time travelling through the main roads. Increased traffic is causing trouble for people commuting in and out of the region. That must be cumbersome for citizens. It is, bless their souls. I'm happily thinking alike on this matter. Let's take a more detailed look at the upgrade proposal. Okay, starting off at Lackhaven. The H3 highway starts here in Lackhaven, and from there leads to Lenkberg, Avery. As a result, the road network towards the Angolian capital, Stahlport, will also improve substantially. She paused and leaned forward in her chair. As mayor, I saw the central government continuously neglect our country's Agno-Sordish dominated regions. Is this administration going to continue that kind of negligence? Our Agno-Sordish citizens should be respected as swords like all of us. And I agree with that. Yes, there should be no preference or separation amongst Sordish citizens, meaning we should think about what's best for the country overall. It has to be pointed out that highway would be less beneficial in the short term. I have to disagree. It will increase the speed of transportation through the region. Our citizens would be quite pleased if we successfully accomplish this. Besides, if we enter trade talks with the Agnolia, they will see it as a positive sign. I've settled on a decision. What will your choice be, Mr. President? And it's got to be the high-speed rail project. That improves business, improves the economy, gives people jobs. In the already richer regions, that will give us the money, hopefully, to invest in the poor regions further down the line. We're going to invest in a high productive area, and then next time we're going to focus on a poor region if we can. The right choice, Mr. President. The negotiations will begin in the middle of this year. You'll be able to award the contract to a corporation of your choice. The Ministry estimates the construction will be completed in 2 years if every step going forward is executed successfully. Thank you all for your contributions and thoughts. Have a good day. Oh, I meant to ask another question as well, but I guess I don't really have a choice there. Okay, assignment started at Wholesword, the high-speed railway, under construction. Okay. In Wholesword, though, we can invest in Arcasian company stocks. Personal investment opportunity has been relayed by Mr. Manger. Okay, you're just a businessman and politician. I can buy stocks, but that's my only personal wealth. We'll give it a go. Someone tells me that's going to go badly wrong. Let's hope that comes back to not bite us terribly wrongly. A reception at the inaugural ball. I had just finished buttoning up my suit jacket when the doorbell rang. The presidential guard has arrived to pick us up for the inaugural ball. The ball was a 3-decade-old tradition, breathlessly anticipated by politicians, bureaucrats and the press. All eyes were about to be on me. I called on Monica, my wife, to get the children ready. Looking in the mirror, I straightened my tie and took a deep breath. After tonight, there'd be no turning back. Suddenly, Dina hugged me from behind, startling me a little. Monica had fixed her hair into an elaborate braid woven through with ribbons. Papa, Mama told us it's time to go. Stroke her hair. Let's try and give as much time to our daughter as we can before we inevitably have to abandon her. You could be someday I'll have to pry the boys away from you. That's mildly strange. Or you could be president yourself one day. Let's try and inspire her as opposed to just do that one. You could be president yourself someday, you know that. Only when I'm old like you. It was almost time to leave. The big ball was starting in less than an hour. Now where's my first lady? Monica came down the stairs. She was wearing a simple yet elegant beige sheath dress and short heels. Her hair had been neatly pinned into a chignal, showing off the pearl earrings I'd given her for our 15th anniversary. All these years, she had stayed by my side. Now, we're about to begin the most challenging chapter in our lives yet. How do you do, Mr. President? Embrace her. Let's try be a family man if we can. Monica, my love, you look as gorgeous as the day we married. Now there's the charm that got you elected. Damn right, Monica. And here's Frank. He's currently studying at high school. The thing itches. He seems ill at ease. I'm glad to have you with us for this big night. Let's try to be friends with our son, because I'm not sure we have a great relationship. Sure, Dad, I'm just dying to go. Papa, are these people going to be around us from now on? These people are our friends, Dina. Let's try that. It's alright, baby. They're here to make sure nothing bad happens to your papa or his family. Let's hope we don't regret that. Dad, do I really have to go? Couldn't I stay home instead? It's a party for him for me. You'll love it, son. I'm sure there'll be plenty of pretty girls to dance with. Don't make me angry. No, let's try to be open and honest with him. I'm nervous myself, Frank, but I feel a lot more comfortable with my son by my side. Frank smiled reluctantly. Well, when you put it like that way, sure. Let's go. The Presidential Guard showed us the way as red and blue lights flashed around us. Sergei, my driver, ushered us into our armoured limousine. The motorcade started moving towards the palace. I gazed out the window, deep in thought. Anton, what are you thinking about? I was thinking we've come a long way together, haven't we? Yes, we have, and there's still so much that we will accomplish side by side. Just remember, no matter what happens, the children and I will always be here for you. I'm going to help Papa fix everything! Frank rolled his eyes. I know you will, honey. This means a great deal to me. After what seems like just a few minutes, the convoy slowed to a halt. Sergei rolled down the limousine's soundproof partition. We are here, sir. I hope you enjoy the drive. Much appreciated. How are you today, Sergei? I'm just as good as I can be, but today's your day, sir. I'm glad you're in charge now. You know, my entire family voted for you. Thank you and your family. I'm here with all of your support. Good to know. I won't let your family down, Sergei. Let's try to be sincere. I don't doubt that, sir. You're the one who sparked a glimmer of hope in us all. Sergei opened the door for me. The normally imposing palace was festooned with garish banners that nearly made it look cheerful. A line of shiny luxury sedans stretched around it. Politicians, bureaucrats and celebrities, the creme de la creme of the sword-and elite, steamed inside the building. Good luck out there, Mr. President. I'll see you on the trip home, Sergei. Okay, I stepped out and immediately found myself surrounded by loud voices and camera flashes. Hordes of eager journalists thrust their portable microphones my way. My guards fended most of them off, but one woman managed to dodge them and corner me. I recognised the Swedish Broadcasting Corporation press company logo on her lanyard. Mr. President, do you plan on working together with the opposition parties on the expected constitutional reforms? We're going to work with everybody. We're going to work with everybody. We're going to try to anyway. Mr. Richter clarified that as long as you hold your promises of democratisation, they will support you on these issues to the end. What do you think of this statement? I welcome it. This is a challenge for us all. One more question. When your first act as president was to sign a campaign finance law allocating public election funds by seats in the assembly as opposed to number of votes. Is this a deliberate attempt to defund the Communist Party and the Blue Deal Workers' Party, neither of whom have reached the election threshold? It was agreed on by the majority of the GNA. I couldn't use my veto on my first day. Perhaps it was, if that unchecked. No. It was agreed on by the majority of the GNA. It would be wrong for me to veto it, to be perfectly honest. That's enough, ma'am, said one of my guards while nudging the reporter away from me. A path through the crowd was now open, and quickly made our way to the entrance of the palace. At the same time, a dozen fireworks went off. The entrance was decorated with beautiful ribbons in Swordland's colours of yellow, white and maroon. A lush maroon carpet had been rolled down the stairs. We entered the lobby and joined the throngs of people making their way towards the ballroom. And behind me I hear a familiar voice. Peter Vecton. There they are, the most beautiful family in Swordland. Uncle Peter! Hi, Uncle Peter, great to see you. You two are growing faster than I am, getting wiser. Are you sure you got any wiser, Peter? Maybe not. After all, I'm still sticking with you. Happy to see a familiar face, Peter. Peter's wife Evelyn approached us and shook our hands with a firmness that belied her delicate features. Congratulations, Anton. I have to say the results were clear to me from the beginning. There's a room behind every successful man. Absolutely. What a gentleman. Hopefully that can also help to appease our wife as well. Yes, Monica smiled at me. Monica, how are you? You barely said a word. I'm more than relieved to have this rollercoaster ride over with, but of course now the real work begins. Ah yes, managing the help, planning parties, daily trips to the salon to look at best of foreign dignitaries. Don't be so old-fashioned, Evelyn. I plan to use my power as First Lady to advocate the position of our women throughout Soulland. Equal rights for our sex are long overdue, wouldn't you say, Anton? Absolutely, and we'll work together to achieve just that. Monica flashed me a smile. Dina suddenly jumped in between us and tugged on my sleeve. Papa, can we go? I want to see the ballroom. Of course, darling. We can carry up on this later. So let's move to the ballroom and see what's there. Inside, we were yet again surrounded by a noisy crowd, but this time it was the politicians who sought to appease the new authority in Swordland. I spent the next few hours shaking hands, joining various conversations, some serious, some superficial, and making speeches. We finally settled down at our dinner table with the Vectons as the band started playing some slow jazz. Jazz FM. Oof, that was tiring. We have to get used to it, which is very true. Well... Oh, guns. Suddenly a loud bang noise echoed from outside the ballroom, then another, and another. The musicians stopped playing, everyone in the room was looking around in confusion. Peter and I turned to each other, realization dawning on both our faces. I don't think those are fireworks, Peter. Gunshots! As soon as Monica heard the word, she lunged from her seat. Shield Monica and the kids. I threw myself on Monica, Dina, and Frank to shield them. Papa, what's happening? I knew it. We never should have gone. Chaos broke out as some guests flung themselves under their tables and others ran towards the door, screaming. Dina burst into the tears while Frank tried to comfort her, hiding the fear in his own eyes. 3 more gunshots rang out loudly. Mr. President, are you alright? Carl Greiser, the head of the Swedish police force, was running towards us with 3 more police officers in decorated uniforms. They all had guns drawn. As soon as he made it to us and saw that we were unharmed, he let out a big sigh of relief. Thank God. Status report. 1 second, Mr. President. Check the perimeter. Now. Paul, Janssen, follow my lead. We'll bring them to the safe room. He now turned to Monica, Evelyn, and the children, and spoke in a softer voice. Do not worry. The situation is now under control. Please follow me. I don't think it is Carl, but sure. We promptly followed Carl through the winding halls and corridors of the palace. His men still had their guns drawn, which did nothing to ease the tension. On the way, Peter made an attempt to break the silence. What a fucking night. It's not over yet. Let's not be cocky. Carl turned to us with a serious face as we were about to round a corner. Quiet, please. Sorry, I talk when I get nervous. Peter, shut up. Carl flipped a switch on the wall and the panel opened, revealing a hidden staircase leading to a large reinforced door. Inside, a set of emergency lights flickered on. The safe room was comfortable and spacious, with expensive-looking leather sofas. Small security monitors on the wall displayed grainy footage of each room in the palace. There was a boardroom and a pantry containing enough provisions to last us months. Monica and Evelyn sat the children down and started wiping their tears. Carl stepped away from us and made a few radio calls. When he was done, he returned to me and Peter. So what's the status? Let's not berate Carl straight away till we know what's happening. Carl's radio suddenly crackled to life. Every second felt like an eternity as he pressed his ear to the receiver. When it fell silent, he turned to us. Good news, we are not in any danger at the moment. The situation has been dealt with and the perimeter has been secured by guards and the police. If I may, sir. He gestured towards a more private corner of the room and started speaking more quietly. This is what we know so far. We have confirmed that the 2 people were gunned down in front of the palace. The attacker is one of them and we have reasons to believe that he was working alone. He fired 3 shots at an MP, 1 to the head, 2 to the body, instantly killing him. Presidential guards at the palace immediately shot and killed the attacker. He has not been identified yet and will require investigation. The MP that was killed was identified as Bernard Circus. Oh, the communist poet. Right. This is huge, Anton. This will cause a lot of problems. A lot of problems. Peter pulled out 2 cigarettes and handed one to me. He then turned to Evelyn. I could hear him trying to assure her that everything was going to be alright. Monica was still trying to tend to Dina as Frank paced the room, mumbling that he should have stayed at home. We're going to comfort Monica and the kids. We are safe. I'll make sure everything's going to be fine. I'm not going to say that nothing will ever happen like this again, because it easily could do. We can't be sure of anything anymore, Anton. I lit my cigarette and took a deep drag. I was going to see this through and keep my family safe. At all costs. I crushed the cigarette on the ashtray. Goodness me. So Bernard Circus is dead. Security measures at the capital have been heightened after the murder of Bernard Circus. The mayor of Wholesword reports that everything is under control. Security around the Maroon Palace has been increased with the combined efforts of the Wholesword Police Department and the Presidential Guard. Additionally, the entrance procedures to the palace are being revised to advise some security professionals. The police chief, Carl Greiser, reported an investigation has been launched on the murder of Bernard. Emergency meeting. Let's get this done. The mood in the Situation Room was gloomy. My cabinet members were gathered to discuss the shooting outside the palace. Lydius presented the initial report. Bernard Circus was shot dead at 9:03 p.m. in front of the palace gates. He was an elected, independent member of the Assembly, and as you know, a famous communist. She spat out the last words with some distaste. The guards at the scene were 50 metres away and immediately took action by responding and killing the assailant, who was identified as a member of the nationalist organisation Young Swords, a right-wing nationalist party. Makes sense that he killed the communist MP, especially a famous one. An MP shot near the palace is absolutely unacceptable. I agree. We are re-evaluating our security measures. However, the recession has affected my ministry negatively. This may well create a dangerous atmosphere where the left versus right political violence of the 1920s could spark once again. A return to these days would be devastating. The coup is the reason why our country stagnated for a decade. Nia Morgana, the Minister of Justice, sighed. The Red Youth has condemned the killing, but didn't stop there. They promised revenge. That would be the young branch of the communists, I would believe. Yes, inspired by the Communist Revolution. The whole cycle started because Bernard Circus expressed his views. We cannot simply look away. Nia had always been one of the only members of the Justice Ministry truly deserving of the name. She had survived countless attacks on her character while fighting corruption within the ministry, and rising to power had only compounded her sense of moral duty. Freedom of expression is part of our constitution. We can't have anyone, let alone an MP, shot for voicing different opinions. I fully agree we should protect freedom of speech. Our laws do, and for good reason. Silencing voices only results in fear and stagnation inside society. We had that before, and know very well how it was. I do hear your concerns. Our police do their best to uphold the rights of our citizens. We will prevent such an act from happening again by making sure security measures are re-evaluated. Minister of Defence Josef Lancia granted an approval. He towered over the rest of us in full military uniform, his many war medals conspicuously on display. Agreed, Mom. Our gendarmerie will also help boost security in the rural areas where possible. There might be more violence to come. We should refrain from making the issue a political one from the start. It will only add fuel to the fire. It's early, but we'll be attending the funeral. We'll start with this. You're right, we need to defuse the situation. Our government is capable to maintain security. Our job will be to reduce tensions. Several police cars rushed past the Maroon Palace and everyone went silent. Regardless, a full investigation into all involved parties is underway. We'll find the subversives and punish them soon enough, Mr. President. Peter will do his best to help coordinate the administration tasks. Justice will be served and the rule of law will return to this country stronger than ever. Only if we stay vigilant as a country. We must think about the upcoming budget. We must not lose sight of the real political goals, like the constitutional reforms. Agreed, these matters shouldn't distract us from what people want us to do. It seems the tensions between the communists and nationalists will escalate further. It will be very difficult to pass any meaningful change if there is a spark of chaos in the country. We can't pass any constitutional reform in such an atmosphere. We can't fix a recession if there's instability. We can't pass any constitutional reform in such an atmosphere, that's definitely true. No use worrying about it now. Let's analyse the effects first. We will cross that bridge when we come to it. This will be all for today then. We'll convene again soon. Thank you all, and keep us updated. Interesting. Ooh, continue. A few days later. What's happened now? Still a few reports, but mostly back in Wholesword. Let's read the report. The Chief of Police, Calgary, reports that 2 Bluedish women with affiliations to the Bluedish Freedom Front, the BFF, have been caught in Wholesword before they could execute a terror attack at a crowded rally. Both women are listed as wanted criminals and enemies of the state. The arrested women have admitted their intentions to attack the Nationalist Front Party rally at Seoul Square, where Kasaro Kibena gave his speech, but rejected any connections to the BFF. Both claimed they were acting alone. Police report that the situation is under control and further investigations are underway. Security briefing, and let's see how that goes. Today's security briefing was arranged in 2 parts, starting with internal matters and moving to external matters after a short break. I opened the door. Lucien, Nia and Lilius rose from their seats. Sir, please take your seats. Everyone in the room sat down except for Lucien. He put on his glasses and went through the documents in front of him. Shortly after, he raised his hand to address the attendees. Mr. President, ladies, we will kick off today's meeting with the internal security briefing. I'm assuming everyone has already been over the agenda. We all have busy schedules. So without further ado, I'll jump into our first topic. As we feared, the political atmosphere has worsened. The reports around the country indicate that tensions are rising as we feared. What is the status on the Bernard investigation? I received news that this morning the investigation into the murder of Bernard Circus has been concluded. Please enlighten us. The more we know, the better. After further investigation testimonies, we've confirmed the motive and also the events leading up to the shooting. A few days prior, members of the Red Youth initiated a violent attack on the Young Swords called leader in Yen. We believe the Young Swords then called for revenge, leading to the death of Mr. Circus. Since he often spoke against the Young Swords and nationalist sentiments in the Assembly, he was a big target, not to mention his radical communist views. Political violence needs to stop. Yes, we've kept it at bay for so long, but it seems that now there are new triggers. The investigation revealed a very troubling fact. The funding sources of the Red Youth have a clear link to United Contana. It's a socialist republic country nearby. So we're going to have to... Oh, what does this mean? That the communist superpower is meddling in our affairs. Several Red Youth members with ties to United Contana have been detained, and the information extracted from them points to preparation for communist uprising in Swordland. It isn't unusual for superpowers to influence other nations, but I think this case is a little too far-fetched. The left lacks popular support in Swordland. I went over the report in detail. It would be wrong to jump to conclusions about a clear foreign influence yet. United Contana has humanitarian and cultural ties with many countries, including Swordland. I don't want to jump to any conclusions immediately. We shouldn't create a crisis with them. We don't need a crisis on our first day. Nearly 3 days, well, not our first day, but our nearly first day. Nearly 3 decades ago, they funded General Ricard and tried to establish a communist dictatorship in our country. If it was not for Colonel Sol, we would have seen the real crisis. Our police chief, Carl Greiser, has linked the funding channel to the United Contana consulate in Benfi. As we all know, the enemies of Swordland are many, but we also have threats inside the country. As the government, we all have the PR to deal with any threats. Our country always had issues. This is part of our job. No, we need to remain vigilant. If we give up essential freedoms to purchase temporary security, we deserve neither freedoms nor security. This is debatable, but yes, we know what more security and surveillance caused this country under President Sol. Let's not forget that President Sol, God bless him, brought stability after a long period of bloodshed and chaos. But moving on. Our highest internal threat comes from the estimated 20,000 strong British Freedom Front, led by the imprisoned Dulin Arji. So these guys are nationalists? They're Bluedish nationalists, makes sense. They're a banned political organisation, now a militant force. They're trying to incite radical violence or racial violence. Are they supported by bluish citizens? Or not? To some extent. Luckily, they couldn't attract a wide audience of bloods, but they could potentially attract thousands of anti-bluish sentiment spreads in Saarland again, so we do need to be careful about that. Our intelligence intercepted 2 crates filled with weapons close to the Romberg border. They were filled with military-grade KA-74s. We expect there were more being smuggled in. A group of Bloods were caught with these guns at a checkpoint not far away. Governor of Berger, Felix Bronn, is already taking the necessary measures to counter the threat. Romberg has been acting aggressively in the region for a long time. I'm not surprised that they would attempt to weaponize the British people against us. This is very worrying. Can we make any direct correlations between the BFF and Romberg? Not yet, but we have suspects that indicate such a correlation. This is grave news, but we must be careful not to stoke the fires of anti-British sentiment. Unfortunately, Governor Bronn is directly causing the tensions to increase with his increasingly anti-British stance. I must remind you, Governor Bronn is directly responsible for the arrest of Duden Argy, the previous leader of the BFF. It's true that his methods can be extreme at times, but it was his policies that kept the region peaceful over the last decade. He is misusing the powers given to him by Tarquin's soul. The insane authority of the governor is surely a root cause. It would be very difficult to revoke the special status of Berger under the current circumstances. The presidents no longer have the authority Tarquin's soul enjoyed. For now, yes. With enough justification for it, it would be possible. Anyway, we will be discussing this at a later time. Berger has always been the region of chaos and trouble. We must be careful. As you know, Berger was given a special status by Tarquin's soul after the full-scale uprising by the BFF against the Swedish government in 1935. These couple of years were disastrous for Berger. Dulin and the BFF declared war on us, openly attacked us and occupied our cities. Entire cities, in fact. It was a massive uprising, but I'd like to point out the longest time they were in control of the city was 2 weeks. I wouldn't call that an occupation. Despite the arrest of Dulin in 1944 and the BFF ceasing its activities, the special status of the region were never revoked. Today, the special zone of Berger gives the governor insane amounts of authority. He was in trouble with the law before for not following the central government's authority. Unfortunately, Berger has its own police forces directly commanded by Governor Bronn. They are not part of my ministry and only cooperate when they are forced to do so, which is a problem. Even though our forces have the authority to serve in Berger, the special zone leaves the security of Berger mostly in the hands of the governor. That leaves my hands tied. We must reverse the situation. It's absurd that the Ministry of Interior doesn't have full control over Berger's security. I agree. I have some ideas about it already, but we can talk about that at a later time. What is the second most important threat? It is the gang violence that is threatening the Nargis and Agenland regions. 2 prominent organised crime families are at war, and the potential for bloodshed is real. Who are the 2 crime families? One is known as the Coronelli, and the other as the Skinner Cartel. They both used to be allies until a recent disagreement. Both are active in the cities of Narbor and Estrod. I want them gone for good. They're insignificant. Or Lilius. Do I trust Lilius? She was in the Women's Army Corps. She's economic booms and security expert. I'm going to trust that you can handle them, Lilius. I'm doing my best, sir. I shall be honest with you, with our current capabilities, we may not be able to prevent the further army of separatists while maintaining order in Berger, Nargis and Agenland. If the law enforcement budget is increased, they can't be fully responsible for what happens. Our police units are spread thin as it is. In light of this information, I might increase the law enforcement budget. We'll rid our country from separatists and violent thugs if you do so. I wish you would stop using the word thugs, Elias. The real problem is corruption, which is fueling the gang violence and is very likely the reason why these weapons were smuggled in. A higher budget could help us end that. Valid points. Corruption is the root of evil after all. We can look into the corruption once the weapons have been found and the gangs have been beaten. Just like previous administrations, kicking the can down the road, that is what is destroying our institutions. Lilius and Nia were both openly scowling at each other. Well, this concludes the topics for our internal portion. Goodness me. Thank you for the overview. Have a good day. So Nia and Lilius will leave. And now we go into external security. Mr. President. Joseph, welcome. I brought General Kruger with me due to the escalation on our borders. Vulcan Kruger, our general, stepped forward and saluted. He had a strong jaw with sharp cheekbones. His tall stature, uniform, and medals, combined with his deep and intense stare, make him look threatening. He was in his 70s, yet he had a bulky body, the result of his commando training. Not only was he the second most decorated officer in Swordland, he was also the longest serving. Salute him? Is he going to like that? We'll try saluting him. He smiled at the gesture and bowed his head in respect. Joseph tapped his foot impatiently. He seemed uneasy with the presence of another high-ranking officer in the room. Gentlemen, thanks for coming to this significant gathering. Let's begin. Joseph and Vulcan took their seats at the table while the rest of the officers stood by the door. Mr. President, the situation in the western and northern borders towards Rumberg is very tense. We are observing deployments of divisions close to our border. Rumberg has been acting increasingly expansionist in the past decade and has also interfered in Agnolia, but now they have turned their sights on us. What is your current strategy? Patrolling close to the border with our border force and keeping army reserves divisions nearby. It seems like they want to increase the pressure both externally and internally. Mr. President, if I may? Please, General. The picture is becoming clearer. The latest information from the interior about the weapon caches and now there is an active military build-up close to our borders. The entire situation was analysed by our General Staff and our prediction is a future territorial incursion by Rumberg. I have complete trust in the General Staff. We will not let you down, Mr. President. The General Staff is composed of the smartest military individuals. I require an increase in the military budget to enlist more soldiers. Only then we can stand strong against our enemies. The enlarged armed forces will hold them at bay. Vulcan is right. We do need to increase the military budget. Although we don't see eye to eye on how exactly to spend the budget, we do agree on some things. I have my concerns about Rumberg too. With strong allies to withstand a superior power, they are our nemesis. That is an understatement. Times are changing and war is coming, Mr. President. Whether we like it or not, we must be prepared. During the election, you said nothing about focusing on our military. I ask you to reconsider and increase the military budget. The future and safety of Swordland is in your hands. As you said, times change, Joseph will see. Let's not commit to anything just yet. A smile brought a glimmer of hope on Joseph's face. Our forces would crumble under a decrease and Rumberg would be much more compelled to exploit our weakness. Our country hasn't fallen to any invading force for 200 years. You cannot let it happen, Mr. President. We should find regional allies like Vagersland or Lespia to deter Rumberg. There are several options on the table. These options should be considered. They could be considered, but why pander to others when we can solve these issues ourselves? We have no true friends outside these borders. Everyone fell silent when a soldier came through and let Joseph know that a call had come from the ministry. Joseph will leave to answer. Mr. President, there has been Rumbergian military activity close to the Narbel border. I just spoke with a local commander. Vulcan, we should go to the ministry and get further updates from our branches. Understood. Raising military readiness is the first call of our action. If there's truly an extraordinary attempt, we will lay it to you immediately and wait for further orders, Mr. President. Remain calm, make sure not to escalate things further. No one wants a war. No, we'll go with your services appreciated, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. President. You will be updated if the situation escalates. Hail, Swordland! Hail! Rumberg was already testing us, and the reports from the interior indicate interference from our borders. Communists, nationalists, British rebels, Rumberg expansionism. What was next? Swordland had always been a key piece in the chessboard of the global rivalry between Arcasia and United Contana. But in the recent years, there was no such aggression from Rumberg. Not at these levels, at least. All it takes is one tiny spark to start the flames of war. The phone rang. Rumberg had decided to close the consulate in Lackhaven. Oh boy. So now we've got some issues which we're going to have to deal with. Let's go back to the main area. We've got a lot to deal with. We've got this data that we've got to deal with, but really, I feel like we've got bigger problems than that. Kingdom of Rumburg here is proving troublesome. They're unfriendly, their military is overwhelming. Queen Beatrice Livingston needs to not charge in, but it looks like she's going to be. We might need to find some friends elsewhere. But in the meantime, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. More to come soon indeed. We've had an assassination, we've got a potential war on the way, a lot to deal with. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.